Hello, this is Victoria Estes. This is my EDU 709 creating project. Um, to start out my rationale for doing this project, most of the students in my fifth grade classes are reluctant to read and write, especially when it relates to Readers or Writers Workshop, or really any time. So I wanted to engage all of my learners in reading and writing through the use of technology. Most of the time, the students seem to really enjoy learning when they get to use the new technologies and go to the computer lab and try new programs that we have. So my goal is for students to fully engage themselves in reading and then reflect not only on their reading but also on that of their classmates through writing. The first lesson that I chose to do, students would first need to read a novel that they had approved by me first. In order to do the technology part of the lesson, they will have to complete their book first and show me that they have the required information about the novel. And then they will create a podcast sharing this information and recommending or not recommending whether they think the book should be given to a classmate to read. Once they finish the podcast, they will take the podcast and post it to their blog page along with the name of the novel and the author. On the second lesson, students will listen to two other classmates' podcasts. I will designate those two students so that every student has at least two people listening to their podcast. Students are going to be more than welcome to listen to other students' podcasts as well, but they must complete the two required classmates recording podcasts first. After listening to the podcast, they will write a comment to help the creator of the podcast know what he or she liked about the podcast presentation. I will also give a short mini lesson on the appropriate comments to make. Comments such as "that is great" really don't give the author of the podcast much information about what he or she was writing about. They need to be a little bit more in depth and help that creator know what he or she did correctly or what might need to be improved upon. So in summary, the students will read a novel after it's approved by myself. Once the novel is completed, they will create a podcast with the required book report information. Along with that book report, students will record a recommendation for or against reading the novel they chose, and the podcast will be posted to the students' individual blogs. Finally, the students will listen to and respond to the podcast in the comment section of the blog. So the conclusion would be students will use the podcast and blog as innovative uses of technology in the classroom, and then it's my hope that each of these technologies will enhance the Readers and Writers Workshop experience and will be something that students will always remember from my classroom and a way to make reading and writing fun. So that completes the introduction part of my presentation. So now I'm going to show you a few different things about how the students would go about creating their projects. So to begin, students are going to need to use Audacity. So you open Audacity like this. So Audacity opens in a screenshot like this, and you just simply click record in order to record the information that you want to record. So I can click, "Hello, my name is Mrs. Estes, and I'm doing a sample podcast for my classroom." Hit stop, and you're ready to stop the podcast. You can play it back to see if it makes sense to you. Click, "Hello, my name is Mrs. Estes, and I'm doing a sample podcast for my classroom." So say you enjoy that podcast and you're happy with it, you are going to want to save it. You can save it um, to Audacity first so that it's always there. Sample podcast. In order to make it viewable or able to listen through other for other people, you need to save it as an MP3. In order to do this, it's export. You would choose export, so you hit export, and down here it says save as type. It already says MP3 file, so choose where you would like it to go, and then you can rename it, or you can keep it the same name. Hit save. You can edit the data if you choose to do so, but it's not necessary. So you can hit OK. And then that podcast will be saved where it needs to go. So after the podcast is recorded, and the students can play around with it if they need to re-record, things like that, um, then you can go on to the blog. So this is probably one of my favorite parts. If you log on to your blog page, this is a past blog page that I have for my class. You can see all of the students' different posts, when they were last posted, who the author was, and then how many comments were on that post. In order to see that, though, you need to log in. So I will log in. You select your name and then your password. So if I wanted to go into these blogs, I could do that, but I'm going to go into the new one that I have set up. So I have my 2013, 2014. I can view my class blogs. Currently, I am the only user that I have set up. I don't have my class list yet, but title of my posts appear here. So I click on Welcome to Kid Blog. This is where I share with my students what we'll be doing, reflecting, focusing, using podcasts, things like that, and making sure that students are respectful. I can delete, change, edit any and all posts through the blog, which is very cool. I can even set it to where I have to approve posts before students can post them, but I find that that takes way too long, and most of the students make appropriate comments, and I just check those that I feel would maybe have a little bit of a problem with podcasting. So anyway, moving on, it also shows the comments down below. I make a comment that says, remember, Mrs. Estes can see all of the posts you make. Even if you choose to post inappropriate or rude comments, your computer privileges will be taken away until Mrs. Estes feels you can handle the responsibility to use the technology available to you. So, sample podcast. I posted a very quick podcast of what I want the students to do, so it's real short. I'll play it for you.
And welcome to Mrs. Estes' class. This year we will be using podcasts in order to share different strategies that we have learned during reading workshops and share book recommendations of excellent novels that we have read during class. Please take time to learn all of the skills needed in order to create your own podcast and share with your classmates. Happy podcasting!
Alright, so that's a sample podcast. Now if I wanted to create a new post, I would go up to New Post, and my new post appears here. So I would say book recommendation, maybe is what I would like the title to be. Then I would do The Giver. By Lois Lowry. And then I have already pre-recorded a post. So it says upload or insert media. I click on that little file there. I can browse, and I need to go back to the file I need to get it from. Giver, make sure you select the MP3 file. It shows with a little music note. Then once it appears there, you click upload. It might take a minute or so. Really quick. So then it shows you the upload file's name, and then you can click insert into post. It appears here. It will change over to the little podcast form once you hit publish. So if I hit publish over here to the right, it shows me book recommendation, the date and time at which I did this. It's The Giver by Lois Lowry, and I can hit play.
The book I chose to do my report on is The Giver by Lois Lowry. The book is about a boy named Jonas, and he lives in a community where everything is the same and everyone gets along pretty much with one another. There really isn't anything different from one person to the next. Everyone
All right, I'm
gets
not going
the
to make you
same
listen
type
to
of
the whole
thing.
thing. Sorry, I'm not going to make you listen to the whole thing. So, say I was finished with that and I was a different person, I could leave a comment for Mrs. Estes. So down here, I could type in my comments. A student would type in their appropriate comments here. They would hit submit comments. The new comment would come up, and as a teacher, you can edit, unapprove, or delete the comments that students leave. And that is both of my lessons, the posting of the podcast and the commenting on the podcast. I hope you learned something new and exciting, and maybe we'll even try it with your own classrooms. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you enjoyed.